Okay, let's continue. Gingerbread Girl. It's number 10. It's 10th day we've read. Basically, for the last couple days, she's been trapped inside the house, right? Literally. Last couple days we've read. Today might be different, or it might be more of the same. More fighting between the two of them. Let's do it. There we go. All right, get rid of me. Right at the bottom there, in the yellow. Part 8. There was a photograph on the wall by the bed. It was the dining room on the other side. There was a long table with a glass top. Around it were 7 red maple chairs. The spot where the 8th belonged was vacant. Of course. As she studied the empty place at the mother end of the table, a memory came to her. Blood blooming and a tiny seed pearl below her eye as Pickering said, "Okay, good, okay." He had believed her when she said only Deke could know she might be inside the pillbox. So he had thrown the little knife, Nicole's little knife, she had thought then, into the sink. So there had been a knife to threaten him with all along, still was in the sink. But she wasn't going back in there now. No way. She crossed the room and went down a hall with 5 doors, 2 on each side and one at the end. The first 2 doors she passed were open. On her left was a bathroom, and on her right, a laundry room. The washing machine was a top loader, its hatch open. A box of Tide stood on the shelf next to it. A blood-stained shirt was lying halfway in and halfway out of the hatch. Nicole's shirt. Emily was quite sure, although she couldn't be positive. And if it was hers, why'd Pickering been planning to wash it? Washing wouldn't take out the holes. Emily remembered thinking there had been dozens, although that surely wasn't possible, was it? She thought it was, actually. Pickering, in a frenzy. Top of the next column. She opened the door beyond the bathroom and saw a guest room. There was nothing but a dark, sterile box starring a king bed so stringently neat you could no doubt bounce a nickel on its counterpane. And it had a maid made up that bed. Our survey says no, M thought. Our survey says no maid has ever set foot in this house. Only nieces. The door across from the guest room gave way to a study. It was every bit as sterile as the room it faced across the hall. There were 2 filing cabinets in one corner. There was a big desk with nothing on it but a Dell PC hooded with a transparent plastic dust cover. The floor was plain oak planks. There was no rug. There were no pictures on the wall. The single big window was shuttered, admitting only a few dull spokes of light. Like the guest room, this place looked dim and forgotten. Hey, really quickly, shuttered. Remember, this is Florida, so they might have shutters on the window, like not metal, but wood to protect it from a hurricane, so the glass won't break. He's never worked in here, she thought, and knew it was true. It was stage dressing. The whole house was, including the room from which she had escaped. The room that actually looked like a kitchen was actually an operating theater, complete with easy clean counters and floors. The door at the end of the hall was closed, and as she approached, she knew it would be locked. She'd be trapped at the end of this corridor if he entered from the kitchen/dining room end. Trapped with nowhere to run, top of the next column. And these days, running was the only thing she was good at, the only thing she was good for. She hitched up her shorts. They felt like they were floating on her now, with the back seam split open, and she grasped the knob. She was so full of her premonition that for a moment she couldn't believe it when the knob turned in her hand. She pushed the door open and stepped into what had to be Pickering's bedroom. It was almost as sterile as a guest room, but not quite. For one thing, there were 2 pillows instead of just one. And the counterpane of the bed, which looked like a twin of the guest room bed, had been turned back in a neat triangle, ready to admit the owner to the comfort of a fresh sheets after a hard day's work. There was carpet on the floor, just a cheap nylon pile thing, but wall to wall. Henry no doubt would have called it a carpet barn special, but it matched the blue walls and made the room look less skeletal than the others. There was also a small desk, looked like an old school desk, and a plain wooden chair. And although this was pretty small shakes compared to the study setup, with its big and unfortunately shuttered window and expensive computer, she had a feeling this desk had been used, that Pickering sat there writing longhand, hunched over like a child in a country schoolroom, writing what she did not like to think. The window in here was also big, top of the next column. And unlike the windows in the study and the guest room, it wasn't shuttered. Before M could look out and see what lay beyond, her attention was drawn to a photograph on the wall by the bed. Not hung, certainly not framed, only tacked there with a pushpin. And there were other tiny holes on the wall around it, as if other pictures had been pinned there over the years. This one was a color shot with 4/1907 printed digitally in the right corner, taken by an old-fashioned camera rather than a digital one by the look of the paper, and not by anyone with much flair for photography. On the other hand, perhaps the photographer had been excited, the way hyenas might get excited, she supposed. When sundown comes and there's fresh prey in the offering. It was blurry, as if taken with a telephoto lens, and the subject wasn't centered. The subject was a long-legged young woman wearing denim shorts and a crop top that said beer clock, bar. She had a tray balanced on the fingers of her left hand, like a waitress in a jolly old Norman Rockwell painting. She was laughing. Her hair was blonde. M couldn't be sure it was Nicole, not from this blurred photo and those few shocked instants when she had been looking down at the dead girl in the trunk of the Mercedes. But she was sure. Her heart was sure. I mean, we could stop there and pause for a minute thinking about the thumbtacked holes there, the photograph here. I don't know. Anybody have any thoughts? Rusty, it doesn't matter, sweetie. You have to get out of here. You have to get yourself some running room. Top of the next column. As if to prove it, the door between the kitchen and the dining room banged open, almost hard enough to tear it from the hinges, sounded like. No, she thought. All the sensation went out of her middle. She didn't think she wet herself again, but wouldn't be able to tell if she had. No, it can't be. Want to play rough? Pickering called. His voice sounded dazed and cheerful. Okay, I can play rough, sure. Not a problem. You want it, you bet. Daddy's going to bring it. Coming, crossing the dining room, she heard a thump followed by a rough clatter as he stumbled into one of the other chairs, perhaps at the farther end of the table, and shoved it aside. The world swam away from her, growing gray, even though this room was relatively bright now that the storm was unraveling. She bit down on her split lip. This sent a fresh stream of blood down her chin, but it also brought color and reality back into the world. She slammed the door and grabbed for the lock. There was no lock. She looked around and spied the humble wooden chair sitting before the humble wooden desk, as Pickering broke into a shambling run past his laundry room and study. And did he have the butcher knife clutched in one hand? Of course he did. She snatched the chair, placed it under the knob, and tilted it. Only an instant later, he hit the door with both hands, top of the next column. She thought that if this floor had also been oak planking, the chair would have skidded away like a shuffleboard weight. Perhaps she would have grabbed it, stood him off with it, the fearless lion tamer. She didn't think so. In any case, there was that carpet. Cheap nylon ply, but deep. It had that going for it, at least. The tilted legs of the chair dug in and held, although she saw a ripple go through the carpet. Pickering roared and began to beat on the door with his fists. She hoped he was still holding on to the knife as he did it. Maybe he would inadvertently cut his own throat. Open this door, he shouted. Open it. You're only making it worse for yourself. Like I could, Em thought, backing away and looking around. What now? Window? What else? There was only the one door, so it had to be the window. You're making me mad, Lady Jane. No, you were always mad. Oh, sorry, already mad, as in Hatter. So, of course, like crazy. Again, something British there, but mad as in nutty, crazy, not right in the head there. She could see the window was a Florida special, the kind made only for looking out of, not for opening, because of the air conditioning. So what was next? Hurtle through it like Clint Eastwood in one of those old spaghetti westerns? Sounded possible. And it was certainly the kind of thing that happened to her as a kid, She had an idea she'd cut herself to ribbons if she actually tried it. Clint Eastwood and The Rock and Steven Seagal had stuntmen going for them when it came to things like, on top of the next column, like the old through the saloon window sequences. The stuntmen had special glass going for them. She heard the rapid thump of footfalls beyond the door as he backed up and ran at it again. It was a heavy door, but Pickering wasn't kidding, and it shuddered in its frame. This time the chair jerked backward an inch or two before holding. Worse, that ripple went through the rug again, and she heard a tearing sound that was not unlike the sound of duct tape letting go. He was remarkably lively for someone who had been beaten about the head and shoulders with a stout piece of red maple. But, of course, he was both crazy and just sane enough to know that if she got away, he wouldn't. She supposed that was a strong motivator. I should have used the whole blanking chair on him, she thought. Want to play? He panted. I'll play. Sure. Bet your butt. But you're on my playground, okay? And here I come. He hit the door again. It bucked in its frame, loose on its hinges now, and the chair jumped back another 2 or 3 inches. Em could see the dark teardrop shapes between the tilted legs and the door, rips in the cheap carpet. Out the window, then. If she was going to die, bleeding from blank alone, knew how many wounds, she'd rather inflict them on herself. Maybe if she wrapped herself in the coverlet. Then her eye fell on the desk. Mr. Pickering, she called, grasping the desk by the sides. Wait, I want to make a deal with you. No deal with blanks, okay? He said petulantly. Like a little kid, like just someone who's not getting his way, I guess. But he had stopped for a moment, perhaps to get his breath back, and gave her time. Time was all she wanted. Time was all she could possibly get from him. She didn't really need to tell him. She didn't really need him to tell her he wasn't the sort of man who made deals with blanks. It's your big plan. Tell Daddy Jim. Must be Jim Pickering, right? Did Deke say that? I don't remember. Currently, the desk was her plan. She picked it up, half certain her strained lower back would just pop like a balloon, but the desk was light, and lighter still when several rubber-banded stacks of what looked like university blue books came tumbling out. All right, what this looks like notebooks of some sort there? I don't know. It kind of looks like he could possibly be, we haven't talked about this yet, maybe a serial killer, right? Someone who stalks women with a camera, somehow like sweet talks them, probably promises them like a lot of money or something like that on his boat or whatever, right? Gets them back, does who knows what, maybe dumps them in the river, in the ocean. I don't know. But it does seem like the man is pretty crazed, has a history. It seems like all of those notebooks might have some writing of like a crazed killer. I don't know. Probably. Maybe. All right. Back to this. Ooh, saw a bad word there. I won't say that word. What are you doing? He asked sharply. And then, don't do that. She ran at the window, then stopped short and threw the desk. The sound of the breaking glass was enormous. Without pausing to think or look, thinking would do her no good at this point, and looking would only scare her if the drop was far. She yanked the coverlet from the bed. Pickering hit the door again, and although the chair held again, she knew this. If it let go, he would have been running across the room and grabbing for her. Something gave a loud wooden crack. Top of the next column. Em wrapped the coverlet around her from chin to feet. For a moment, looking like an N.C. Wyeth Indian woman about to set off into a snowstorm. And I think N.C. Wyeth is a painter from Maine. N.C. Wyeth. But you probably don't care about that, right? I am kind of curious. That is from Massachusetts. But I think I can share this. Yeah, so N.C. Wyeth, kind of like that kind of paintings right there. Fortunately, I think maybe he had a He maybe had a kid from Maine, but that was also a painter. But anyways, that's not what we're reading here now, are we? No. Let's get back to this. All right. Then she leapt through the jagged hole in the window just as the door crashed open behind her. Several arrows of glass sticking out of the frame wounded the coverlet, but not a single one touched them. Oh, you blank and blank, 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 blank. Pickering screamed behind her, close behind her. And then she was sailing. So we have no idea how far down it is. I mean, probably not going to die, right? I mean, that would be the end of the book. And it looked like there was at least part 9. Gravity is everyone's mother. So, but tomorrow we'll find out how the landing goes. I don't know if you know anything about glass, putting your fist through glass, putting your body through glass, putting your head through glass. It's not good. It's not good. I'll tell you a quick story here about when I taught in Lewiston Middle School. Luckily, it wasn't my classroom, but the teacher next door to me, I don't know, had an argument with one of her students. He was not pleased. We had little, you can't do it here. I'll show you this door. You can't do it on this door, but the ones in Lewiston, these were bigger. Those windows were bigger, and he got mad. And I heard it. I didn't see it, but apparently he punched the window. I saw the shattered window after, and then I saw the trail of blood leading out down the hallway because he had just, he needed stitches after. But sometimes I think you can put your fist or your head or whatever through a window and it'd be okay, or it can just absolutely, I think she said something like tear to ribbons. I mean, it can be bad. So we had a, I don't know, yellow or red lockdown or whatever for quite a while because it happened at the end of class and students were supposed to go to different classes, but you had this big, kind of like with Pickering and the swath of blood there, just like lots and lots of blood. I think an ambulance was called. Yeah, that was about 10, 15 years ago or something like that. Not sure whatever happened to that guy, but I never saw him again. Thankfully, he was a little out there. Who knows what he's doing today? But he's got to be in his 30s, I guess, right now. So, anyways, we'll read about her aftermath. But it seems like, I think they already said, right? Nothing hurts her. The fall might, but it seems like she got away with putting the cover around her and getting out of there. All right. See ya.